Hello folks, slightly different video today. I'm going to talk about my experience as an EV driver and a Motability client. So if you're not interested in either of those things, then you don't need to look any further. But if you are interested in Motability and the potential of having an EV on Motability, then you may find this video of interest. So where do we start? I had my first Motability car in 1978. I think I was one of the first 200 customers to get a Motability car. Motability has been a fantastic solution for lots of disabled drivers. It's quite complicated to really understand what Motability is. Now, if you're already involved in it, you needn't waste your time listening to what I've got to say. But if you're fairly new to the scheme, then let me explain. The Motability Scheme is a cooperation between the UK government and the Motability Foundation. The Motability Foundation is a charity. The Motability Operations is a commercial business, a company which is owned by the 4 major banks, and that company has a contract with Motability Foundation to deliver the scheme to disabled drivers. I'd just like to add here as well, I quite often hear people say that Motability cars are free. They're not free. Disabled people are entitled to getting disability benefits. If you or a member of your family become seriously ill or have an accident and become immobile and disabled, you'll be very grateful for the assistance that you get from the government as well, because the average cost of living index for being disabled now is £1,010 a month. So in other words, it's £1,010 a month more expensive to be disabled, and that doesn't include the difficulties that you endure as well. So those benefits are welcome, and most people are in great need of them, and you would be as well if it happened to you, God forbid. I just wanted to make that clear. Motability cars are not free. The clients of Motability have a choice to pay for a car from Motability, or they can keep that money and spend it on their own private car, whichever they choose to do. Those benefits come in the guise of PIP, personal independence payments, disability living allowance, and I think there's a war pensions mobility supplement as well. In those payments, you will find that you get a mobility component. So what happens is, if you're eligible and qualified to receive this benefit, then you can get the government to pay your mobility component directly to Motability Operations to cover the costs, the lease of your car. Now, Motability Operations leases are generally 3 years. They have a website. You can go to the website. You can see all the different cars that are available to be leased. There's an advance payment usually. Sometimes it's zero. Sometimes it can be as much as £12,000. I think you can see the actual figures on the website. So an advance payment is like a deposit, if you like. That money's paid and it's gone forever. And then your Motability component is taken out of your allowance every 4 weeks. So I think it's about £300 if you pay the full amount on disability living allowance or PIP, for example. So that's a lot of money that Motability Operations are collecting. If they've got over 700,000 clients, and I think it's pretty close to 800,000 now, if each of those are paying £300 a month, then that's a considerable amount of money that's going through that business. And I think that they probably are the largest, if not one of the largest, car lease companies in the country. Okay, so if you're not on the scheme, but you are disabled, then you should make some inquiries and see if you're entitled to join the scheme. If you get a mobility component, then you should be able to. And it's very well worth doing, because Motability will allow you to get a brand new car through a dealer on a 3-year lease, and that payment from your mobility component covers the cost of leasing the car, the cost of insurance, servicing, recovery, tyres, servicing, everything's covered. So yes, as I say, I've been in the scheme now for almost 50 years, and in that time I've had a variety of cars in a variety of different circumstances. I haven't been in the scheme all the time, because during that period, obviously, I've worked overseas, and I've also had my own car, and I've had company cars as well. So it's not been an end-to-end constant Motability car for me, but I've had a variety of them in different circumstances. So I've got quite a lot of experience. One of the ways it becomes cheaper through Motability Operations to have a lease than to do it yourself is because they are VAT exempt. So whereas in a private lease you'd be paying 20% VAT, you don't through Motability. That's how they managed to make it much cheaper. And plus, of course, they have their buying power when they're, you know, doing contracts with motor manufacturers. I think over a commercial lease, you probably save 30–40% at least, I would imagine. And you've got the security of knowing that your car is new and guaranteed effectively from every angle. There's nothing else for you to do. So it's very, very, very good if you've got the right car. So it's very important that if you decide to get a Motability car, that you do your research and that you choose the correct car for your needs. Now, I've returned a car more than once to Motability due to changing circumstances, changing conditions, etc. Motability are very reasonable, and you know, they'll always consider your personal circumstances. But you've got to remember, if you do take a car, you're taking on a 3-year contract essentially. So you can't just suddenly say, I don't want it anymore. Motability will also cover the cost of adaptations to a vehicle, or part of the cost of the adaptations to a vehicle. So for example, in my case, I've got hand controls, I have an electronic accelerator and a push brake, and the overall cost of that, if you was to buy that privately, I think was about £2,000. Through the Motability scheme, it cost me, I think it was about £680 for the same thing. So a huge discount. Also, if you need a hoist or transition aids to get in and out of the car, those can also be fitted to the vehicle. If those costs are a bit too much, then there's also the possibility of getting a grant from the Motability Foundation, the charity, who will endeavour to, you know, help you afford those necessities that you need to make your car usable for you. So how do you pick the right car? Well, obviously at the moment we are dealing with the transition to EVs. Now, let me be clear, this video is not political. I'm not anti-net zero, and I'm not anti-EV. This is really about making sure that people that have any kind of, you know, disability make the right choice, that, you know, you get the right car, that you're not pushed, coerced or forced into getting a car that's just not suitable for you. I myself, and I'm sure many other disabled drivers, are obviously pro clean air, you know, reduce toxic components in the atmosphere. We all want to live in a cleaner, healthier world. But for a lot of disabled people that are struggling to get through life anyway, you know, net zero is probably quite a low priority compared to their need for reliable transport and independent living. So with that in mind, let's talk about what is currently happening in the car market. As you know, the government have currently got 2035 as the time when, you know, we should not be able to buy a new petrol or diesel car anymore. That could well be changed back to 2030. So the tendency at the moment is to find a lot of EVs are being offered to you. The Motability Scheme are trying to transition their customers and their relationships over to EVs. Now, Motability's own figures, I think, are 40 to 50% of people that will not be able to charge at home. Lloyds Bank did a research report which said, I think, 44%. When I spoke to the Chief of Operations at GridServe, he told me they estimated it to be 47%. So it's pretty clear that, you know, between 40 and 50% of households, drivers, are not going to be able to charge at home. Now, that might not be such a problem for a lot of people, but in my situation, it certainly was. If I'd had a home charger, then I would have probably been quite satisfied with my electric car as a second car. The reason I say as a second car is because I had a Mini, and the range was 120 miles on a good day, let's say. So you're not really going to go very far without charging it. If you're just using it as local runaround and you can charge it when you get home and it's fully charged when you leave in the morning, then yeah, it's a good solution, and it can be quite economical if you've got a reasonable tariff, overnight charging, solar power. If you don't have a home charger, then you're going to need to rely on the public charger network, and unfortunately it's not accessible. There are a few reasonably accessible public charge hubs around the country, but they're few and far between, and you know, believe me, you can't rely on them, because when you're going to a particular destination, then you've got to use whatever charge facilities are on that route, and quite often, more often than not, they're not going to be accessible if you use a wheelchair or if you use walking aids and that kind of thing. So if you don't have to worry about access, you know, your disability doesn't include, you know, your physical mobility or whatever, then it's not really an issue for you. But if you have a wheelchair, or if you use walking aids, or if you have a family member that does, then, you know, it is going to impact you. So, you know, you need to think very carefully before you choose to have an EV in those circumstances. Now, if you do a lot of long haul traveling, or if you do a lot of short haul traveling, that obviously makes a difference too. Personally speaking, I would recommend, if you've got a physical disability and you can't charge at home, then go for a hybrid, or go for a diesel or a petrol car while you still can, and just make sure that your life is not made more difficult because you chose the wrong car, essentially. In my case, I went back to Mini and I got a Mini Cooper S convertible, 2-litre petrol. I'm achieving 40 to 50 miles per gallon, which means I get a full tank range of about 440 miles, so quite relaxing, and, you know, no anxiety when it comes to refueling. Being a convertible, I can put the roof down and I can get in my wheelchair, all my electric wheels. There's only the two of us, so I can fold the back seats down. Well, I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. If you did, please do give me a like, comment, share and subscribe. It all helps me to promote the channel. You'll find links in the description to some of the topics that we talked about today, and a link to my website. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.